Christina Sawyer calls her beloved Taco the family protector.
She always loved to watch after and make sure we were okay.
Now, Sawyer blames Hill's Pet Nutrition canned dog food for her death. 25 products voluntarily recalled last week after complaints about dogs getting sick. Hill's blaming a supplier error, elevated levels of vitamin D, an essential nutrient for dogs that can damage kidneys.
When the kidneys start to fail, it can lead to death.
New at 10, potentially deadly dog food. A major recall tonight after chemicals used to put animals down is found in a popular brand of pet food.
And when I came down in the morning, I checked on her, and she was breathing and she was sleeping. And I went upstairs to take a shower, and I heard her food bowl go across the floor. And I go, oh, Callie's up. And I took a shower, and then I came back downstairs, and she was dead.
This is that fast.
So, you're Purina in the mid-1920s. Before becoming known for dog and cat food, you were an animal feed company that makes cheap, grain-based feed for chickens and pigs. You started your company in 1894. It was the time when most Americans lived on farms, so business was not too shabby. But after World War I ended, you ran into a little problem. See, before the war, the American dream was all about owning land, raising farm animals, and feeding those farm animals Purina animal feed. But now, with the industrial age in full swing and the mass production of these mechanical vehicles they're calling automobiles, people were abandoning their peaceful life in the country for a fast-paced, exciting life in the city. Which also meant they were also abandoning their beloved horses, pigs, and cows for a more compact companion. Dogs. And cats, but come on, dogs are better. So instead of a horse in a stable, they had a poodle in a brownstone apartment. And as a company that specialized in farm animal feed, you needed to come up with some new type of food for these pint-sized pets, or else you and your company would be in the doghouse. So what did you do? You rebranded. You took the same low-grade feed filled with cheap ingredients you were selling to livestock, and you just repackaged it as dog food. You know, moldy grains, discarded animal parts, and eventually something called real meat flavor.
A very important part of this champion's diet is meat. That's why we feed him Friskies.
It's a complete diet in just the right amount.
It was convenient.
No can opener. It's a zip open can.
Clever, zipping it open.
It was affordable.
Look, soy and meat protein, vitamins, minerals, that's a banquet.
But Gaines Complete costs less.
It was nutritious, or so you said in the commercials.
Gina, you're no dog, you're a pig.
And the dog owners of America fell for it. They started buying these garbage pellets by the pound. Only the best food for their bestest widow friend in the world. And the great thing about selling dog feed is that in the US, the food regulations for dogs and cats are at the same standards as livestock. So the FDA didn't care what you were putting in your chicken-flavored chunks for Snowy, or your nondescript nugget dinner for Daisy. It didn't matter that dogs were designed to eat a meat-based diet, not flavored grain nuggets with just a little bit of meat thrown in.
The term with means it contains 3 to 24% of the ingredient. So if it says pedigree with beef, there might only be 3% beef in that formulation.
There's definitely an epidemic of problems now in animals that I don't think we've seen anything like it in history.
As long as you could fool the public into believing this stuff was just as good as real meat, the doggy door would be blown wide open. And of course, the prospect of saving time and money was also very appealing to the masses.
Steak bones come from steak, and dogs love them. Bones come from Purina. They're a new snack for dogs, and they look so much like steak bones you can hardly tell the difference.
Welcome to Evil Food Supply. This is how Big Kibble is slowly poisoning your dog to death. And it's more disturbing than you could have ever imagined. Before packaged pet food, dogs just ate whatever was left over for dinner. And this kept dogs alive for centuries. But there's no money in table scraps. And as a budding pet food entrepreneur, you wanted to find a way to fill this hole in the market. And this is exactly what James Spratt did in 1860, when he released the first ever food made specifically for dogs: meat fibrine dog cakes. made from wheat flour, beef blood, beetroot, and vegetables, which actually doesn't sound too bad. And these dog cakes became an instant hit. These pre-made cakes were being marketed as full meals. It was the perfect food for hunters to feed their dogs on long trips through the wilderness. And it wasn't long before the concept of special dog food really started to take off. As the years went by, more companies released their own versions of the dog cake, like Milkbone did in the early 1900s. And these biscuits were fine, but where's the meat?
Where's the beef?
Everyone knows that dogs drool over a thick slab of bacon or a juicy steak. And if you think about it, you would be able to hook even more dog owners if they knew they were feeding their good little boy real, thick, juicy meat. And so you invented canned dog food. But come on, there's no way you're gonna pack these cans with actual steak. That would have been a death sentence for your bottom line. You're gonna use something a little more economical. Horse meat. That's right. Horse meat. Remember when everyone abandoned their farms to live in the city? Yeah, well, where do you think all those horses went?
A very important part of this champion's diet is meat. That's why we feed him Friskies. The principal ingredient is lean red horse meat.
The pets of the past were being fed to the pets of the future. And because horse meat was so cheap, you were making bank. And sure, in the beginning, pet owners were a little wary about feeding horses, America's most noble animal, to their pets. But your advertisement snapped them right out of it.
Brought to you tonight by Kennel Ration, the real thing in dog food, with lean red meat.
My dog's bigger than your dog. My dog's faster than yours. My dog's shinier cause he gets kennel ration. My dog's better than yours. Kennel ration has lean red meat and lots of other good things. When my mom goes to the store, she buys a zillion cans or more. My dog's better than your dog. My dog's better than yours.
And for a couple decades, canned pet food reigned supreme in the market. Dog owners would be crazy not to buy this new government-approved horse meat formula. But then, World War II happened. And the tin cans you were packing your horse meat into were now being rationed. It was a disaster. You just got everyone sold on canned dog food, and now you need to pull it from the market. And so, your only option was to invent a dog food that could be sold in paper bags.
Hey, what's going on, Rusty? Oh, I see. She's doctoring up your dog food. Look, she's adding something for nourishment. Something for flavor. Ladies, stop. No need to do all that. Now from Gaines Research Kennels comes a totally new kind of dog food. New Gaines Rally, the first dog food that you don't have to doctor up. No doctoring up to it. Rally is so rich in meat and bone meal, dogs like it as is, straight from the box. That's right. Each crunchy chunk is so rich in meat and bone meal, you don't have to doctor it up. Say, wouldn't you like a dog food you can feed straight from the box if you want to? Then get new Gaines Rally, the first dog food so rich in meat and bone meal, it needs no doctoring up.
With tin cans on the ration list, you were in deep doo-doo. How on earth are you going to turn fresh food like meat and vegetables into something that can be stored in a paper bag? What if you took a page from the book of our good friend John Kellogg and made your own cereal for dogs? I mean, people love Chex and cornflakes. You could use the same extrusion process cereal companies use to create a dog cereal. You could call it kibble, just to keep it fun and intriguing. And because dogs and cats are still under the same food laws as livestock animals, you have tons of wiggle room for what actually goes into this kibble cereal. According to AAFCO rules, if you call your pet food dinner, nuggets, or formula, it only needs to have 25% meat. If it says with on the label, like with beef, it only needs to have 3% meat. And if it says flavor, it doesn't need to have any meat at all. So chicken-flavored chunks could have absolutely zero chicken.
Flavor. That means it tastes like the name ingredient. So if it says beef flavor, doesn't actually have to have any beef in it,
Hey, don't get your doggy dimples in a bunch. It's even better because we added the taste of chicken to the already beefy taste of kibbles and bits.
Great! You have a super cheap dog food that's completely void of nutrition. Now the question becomes, how are you going to convince the masses that this kibble is better than the real thing? How are you going to convince them that it's even better than the real thing? Simple. Who do the masses trust when it comes to what's best for their dogs? Who are the authority figures they automatically look up to? Vets. No amount of radio ads or newspaper ads could possibly be more influential than a veterinarian's recommendation. So if you can find a way to get vets to recommend your disgusting kibble, then everyone will automatically fall into line. And how are you going to get these vets on board with your new, improved, dry dog food? Simple. You want to get them while they're young, while they're still in university. Think about it. These vets have no idea that dry food is less nutritious than wet food. They're just innocent university students with a big heart. They don't even have a class on proper pet nutrition. And since your company is giving their school money, they'll assume your brand is trustworthy. And so, just like that, America's vets were all bought out.
See, these are Gaines burgers, and they're already measured for you. Just takes 2 to give your dog all the nourishment of a 1-pound can of the finest dog food.
Oh, I see. 1 capful of Rally's is much of a meal as a regular 1-pound can. 6 capfuls in here, as many meals as 6 regular cans.
This is just like what the tobacco industry did with doctors.
Was Camel. Yes, according to this survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
You'll also get magazines to start demonizing table scraps, saying that the onions and garlic which are surely lurking in your leftovers will kill your dog. And as the decades went by, dry dog food would become a religion. Even today, many people wholeheartedly believe that if you feed your dog human food, it was tantamount to animal abuse. Give them dry, processed, cheap kibble instead that has lower quality standards. Even though the extrusion process zaps every last bit of natural vitamins and minerals out of the kibble. It's convenient, it's colorful, it's fun! It's like Fruit Loops, but for dogs. And all that money you were making from AAFCO's relaxed labeling laws was so sweet, you didn't want to slow down. You needed to make this kibble even cheaper. And this is when you made a life-changing deal with rendering plants.
Something's in the air. Oh, Quick Kennel Meal, the instant dog food mix. You see, when you just add water, Kennel Meal's real meat meal sends out strong meat signals that dogs just can't resist. As for flavor, well, actions speak louder than words. Note the texture of new Quick Kennel Meal. Meaty, hamburger-like. It contains real meat meal.
So, if you're going to convince all of America to feed their dog Fruit Loops for every meal, you have to at least pretend there's at least some meat in there. But instead of spending your hard-earned profits on actual real meat, you're going to buy something called Animal Byproduct Meal from a rendering plant. What is Animal Byproduct Meal, you ask? It's a delectable meal consisting of everything from diseased zoo animals to euthanized pets to old slaughterhouse scraps like feet, feathers, beaks, tumors, and hide. And when these old rotting animals arrive at the rendering plant, they may have been sitting out in the sun for days. They might be covered in feces, and if it's a dead dog from the pound, it might even still have its flea collar on it. Researcher Keith Woods details his findings at a rendering plant somewhere in Southern California. The rendering plant floor is piled high with raw product. Thousands of dead dogs and cats, heads and hooves from cattle, sheep, pigs, and horses, whole skunks, rats, and raccoons, all waiting to be processed. In the 90-degree heat, the piles of dead animals seem to have a life of their own, as millions of maggots swarm over the carcasses. And this was reported in 1990, mind you. This wasn't even in the 50s or something. But these rendering plant workers don't have time to clean and skin all these animals. So they pretty much just give them a chop and dump them into a soup, fur, hooves, and all. Then, for the next hour, they will cook down, all together, until the meat and bones have separated and the fat rises to the top. But this sizzling stew isn't done yet. After the fat has been scraped off, the meal is dried, ground into a powder, sifted, to get out any of the hairs and pieces of bone, and voila, Animal Byproduct Meal is served. you're not gonna call it animal meal on the package because that kinda sounds like the beginnings of a horror film. Instead, you're gonna use the name of whatever animal is dominant in the mix, which in America is usually chicken. So when you list chicken meal on the label, it actually means mostly chicken meal, maybe 30%. And the rest? Roadkill, skunks, dead pets, horses, spoiled fish from grocery stores still in the styrofoam packs, literally anything goes. One insider said that at one of these rendering plants, he saw dead dogs, cats, raccoons, possums, deer, foxes, snakes, and a baby circus elephant and the remains of a bowsman, a police department quarter horse that died in the line of duty. Yes, it is possible that the dog food you're feeding your beloved four-legged friend right now contains dog and cat meat in it. But you're never going to admit to this. When questioned about what exactly is in the animal meal, you will insist that no euthanized dogs or cats would ever be put in Dear Fluffy's chicken-flavored nuggets, even though Valley Proteins, a rendering facility in Texas, literally sells inedible animal meal, which, yes, contains wildlife, roadkill, and euthanized pets to Alpo, Heinz, and Purina. What else are these companies using it for but dog food? If you need more convincing, in 2018, a euthanization drug called pentobarbital was found in J.M. Smucker's Gravy Train dog food. And the masses won't bat an eye. Not when your Kibbles and Bits has this picture of this juicy steak on the cover with this happy little boy. Look, it's oven-roasted beef flavor with 100% complete and balanced nutrition. Again, your dog food only has to contain as little as 3% meat. But what about the remaining 97%? Well, let's take care of that next.
It better be Bits. It better be Bits.
Oh, yeah, it's Bits, Mike. It's Bits, I tell you. It's Bits. It's Bits.
It better be Bits.
Oh, it's Bits, I tell you. Oh, wait. It's Bits. It's Bits. It's Bits.
It better be Kibbles and Bits and Bits and Bits, because dogs love crunchy kibbles with chewy bits. All kinds of bits. For a one-of-a-kind taste dogs just gotta have.
It better be Bits.
Kibbles and Bits and Bits and Bits.
What I tell you, Spike? See? It's Bits. Oh, boy, it's Bits.
It's the bits that make it better.
So you've got your 3% animal meal, now you just need to bulk things up with some grains. Putting grains in your dog food is a no-brainer. It's dirt cheap and there's no scientific studies saying dogs and cats shouldn't have grains, so why not jam in as much as we can?
First ingredient is corn. Second ingredient is soybean meal. Third ingredient is beef and bone meal. Fourth ingredient is ground wheat, followed by animal fat preserved with BHA.
So now, you're going shopping for some grains. But you're not gonna buy the nice, clean, expensive grains that they sell in the grocery store. No, you're gonna get those old, cheap, moldy grains that farmers feed to livestock. And the mold on these cheaper grains have been proven to cause diseases like neuropathy, gut disorders, and cancer. But once again, that's the beauty of dealing in animal food. According to the FDA, mold is technically allowed to be in pet food at 10 parts per million. So obviously you're throwing it in. And just to cover your tracks, you'll create videos saying that grains like corn are extremely healthy for dogs.
After many years of R&D, we have found that corn is still the best available source of carbohydrates when processed and refined properly.
Because if word got out that, hey, dogs are supposed to eat mostly meat, which they are, your multi-million-dollar kibble empire would crumble. So you've got your moldy grains in the mix, but rotten animals and moldy grains obviously taste horrendous. You're gonna need to cover the disgusting taste with some fake flavoring, or what you will eventually call real meat juices.
Meat juices. Give your dogs a great taste that'll stop him in his tracks. Chuckwagon.
The great taste of Chuckwagon. Dogs don't in their tracks.
Chuckwagon from Purina.
These special juices, which you call palatants, give your kibble that final chef's kiss. Without it, dogs probably wouldn't even touch the stuff. And hold on, before you put your kibble in the bag, you'll need a final dusting of preservatives. You know, so it will last an ungodly amount of time. Every other country in the world has banned preservatives like BHA, BHT, and propyl gallate, but not in the US. Only the most dangerous preservatives will do for man's best friend. BHA, the main preservative used in pet food, has been shown to cause stomach tumors in rodents. And BHT, Another toxic preservative that's used in Purina's dog food, that's banned in countries like Australia and Japan, is known to cause liver damage.
Real meat meal with meat aroma, meat flavor.
Oh, and we can't forget the bag itself. PFAS, the toxic forever chemical found in Teflon pans, is illegal to use in human food packaging. But dog and cat food packaging is fair game. Kibbles and Bits bacon and steak kibble from Purina had PFAS contamination at 600 parts per million. And the EPA considers 100 parts per million to be toxic. And yours is 6 times that amount. Most other US pet food is also contaminated. But hey, it's not against the rules, so why not use it? And with your recipe complete, your pet food empire only gets bigger and bigger. Until the mid-2000s, when everything came back to bite you.
You say you have extended periods of anxiety and depression and you're not eating properly. Why not? I see. You know your dog food is good for you, but you don't like the taste, huh? Well, it's a common problem. You need a dog food that's nutritious and tastes good, too. You need new Gaines meal. Gaines makes nutrition taste good. You see, every nugget is basted for flavor, to give it a taste and aroma dogs can't resist. And in spite of what you tell me, you are a dog. And notice the small nugget size. It makes Gaines meal easy to eat and easy to mix. Go ahead, try it. See? Gaines does make nutrition taste good. Next patient, please. Get brand new Gaines meal. It makes nutrition taste good.
Now buy 5 pounds of Gaines meal and save 6 cents. 10 pounds, save 15 cents. 25 pounds, save 25 cents.
The year was 2007, and you, as Purina, were about to go through the biggest pet food recall in American history. The culprit? Melamine. A nitrogen-based substance that makes plastic more durable and hard. Melamine is also super high in protein. And the factory in China that was making your pet food decided to add this toxic yet high-protein melamine to boost protein levels. According to the AAFCO, dog and cat food needs to have a certain level of protein, but where the protein comes from doesn't really matter.
If you meet the nutrient level for protein, it makes no difference whether that protein comes from a healthy protein source like chicken or whether it comes from a base protein source like wheat flour or wheat gluten that's been fortified with protein of some kind. As long as you meet the nutrient levels that they've set, the food is approved.
So because China doesn't have regulations against using melamine in dog food, they decided it was a great way to boost the protein levels while cutting costs. And this is where things got a little chaotic. This Chinese factory was making dog food not just for you, but a bunch of other major brands in the US.
More dogs and cats have died because of contaminated pet food since 60 million cans and pouches of food have been recalled.
In LA County, at least 5 pets have died. Hal Eisman is live with the latest on the class action lawsuit that's now been filed. Hal?
Chris, John is probably the first of many to come. A class action lawsuit filed today in Chicago. Meanwhile, here in Southern California, there are a number of cases of suspected kidney failure in pets, including this dog, Greta.
270 dogs died from melamine poisoning, all because you had no quality check in place at your factory. But this wasn't entirely your fault. The FDA also had their tail between their legs, because they weren't enforcing any sort of safety check on dog food.
Pet foods are indeed a highly regulated product. They are perhaps the most regulated product on the supermarket shelf.
Mr. Nelson was very clear in his statement that AAFCO has no regulatory authority. We've been told by the FDA that there is no pre-market approval of this product.
Why would the FDA waste their money regulating dog food? Oh, maybe it's because it's impossible for people to sue if your dog dies from food poisoning. Most dogs cost around $150 to purchase or adopt. And if your dog dies, even though you're super attached to them emotionally, you won't really get that money back if you sue. Add the costs of a lawyer, and you're better off just getting a new dog.
Most states, all but 2, pets are treated as personal property. So if you have a 12-year-old dog who spent 12 years of his or her life with you, and it dies because of someone's negligence, It's treated as a 12-year-old chick.
The FDA knows this. The big pet food companies know this, which is why when the pet parents whose dogs died from melamine poisoning sued for their losses, they only ended up with less than $1,000 each. But melamine was only the beginning. As the years went on, more and more dog food brands would be recalled.
Well, 6 dog food varieties are being recalled because they may contain toxic levels of mold.
Recalls.
Our dogs are like family to us, but in the eyes of the government and Big Kibble, they're just a lowly animal.
What do you feel most bad about this whole thing?
That I was the one that was putting the food in the bowl.
And you didn't know anything about it?
And I hope she doesn't think that I'm the one who did it to her.
And what happened towards the end? Did you have to put Sahara asleep?
Yeah.
Because she couldn't move at all?
No. She, even human touch hurt her at the end. Try to pet her to comfort her and she'd yipe about it. So even the human touch wasn't good at the end.
My dog's bigger than your dog. My dog's faster than yours. My dog's better 'cause he gets kennel ration. My dog's better than yours. My dog's smoother than your dog. My dog's cuter than yours. My dog's better 'cause he gets kennel ration. My dog's better than yours. My dog's longer than your dog. My dog's braver than yours. My dog's better 'cause he gets kennel ration. My dog's better than yours.
Kennel ration. It's the real thing. The lean red meat he wants, the other good things he needs. Canned fresh, cooked fresh, to stay fresh. Juicy, tender, and moist.
My dog's prettier, smarter, taller. My dog's better than yours.
Kennel ration. In a can because it's the real thing.
You can't depend on table scraps to provide you with a balanced diet. You like rope-up ribbon? Well, add it to those tasty scraps and you'll get a good balance of all the nutrients you need. Rope-up contains an extra bonus of protein, minerals, and vitamins. Will you do that? Yeah.
In 1940, there were only 10 vet schools in the US. Now, there are over 30. And guess what? Most of them are funded by big kibble brands. And guess what these well-intentioned vet students are taught by these kibble companies? Never feed a dog table scraps and to avoid raw meat at all costs. If you feed your dog such poison, you're an animal abuser.
There have been tons and tons of studies that looked at raw food diets. So if we just keep digging a little bit further, we can see that there's actually lots and lots of bacteria. Bacteria, guys. I'm talking E. coli, Salmonella, Clostridium. Oh my gosh.
And that instead, they should be recommending their special vet-approved science-backed formulas. And this is where it gets really clever. If your dog gets arthritis from years of eating toxic, nutrient-void dog food, just feed them our special joint support formula with all the things your dog needs to heal his joints, including soybean meal, chicken meal, and powdered cellulose. Problem solved! And you might be thinking, but Evil Food Supply, I buy the good dog food that has whole, natural ingredients. That can't be bad, right? Yeah, even natural brands like Blue Buffalo use chicken byproduct meal and corn. They just don't put it on the label.
The suit alleges testing at an independent lab found significant percentages of poultry byproduct meal in Blue Buffalo's top-selling Life Protection products, and that some of its grain-free products contain rice or corn.
Just like how American humans are getting fatter and sicker with every generation, dogs are also getting fatter and sicker. And it's because Big Kibble is using the exact same playbook as Big Food and Big Pharma. Get dog owners hooked on cheap, convenient dog food. When their dog gets sick, get them to buy your special formula. Except it's way worse, because dog food has lower quality standards. Lawsuits are way less profitable. And of course, dogs can't tell you that they're suffering. So if you have dogs like we do, you should take any dog food you have in the house right now and throw it in the trash. And instead, here are some recommendations.
We have to remember that dogs and wolves are so close, they are not the same, but they're so close genetically that they actually can interbreed. Don't spend money on crappy dog treat. Nothing from the supermarket. That's the opportunity to save some money and then feed your dog from the fridge. Feed fresh, whole, living, low glycemic veggies. Blueberries. The only foods you can't feed dogs, no members of the onion family, no grapes or raisins, no macadamia nuts because they're high in fat and they can cause some GI upset, no chocolate.
And contrary to all the big kibble propaganda, don't shy away from feeding them raw meat. Dogs are descendants of wolves, after all. In fact, isn't it interesting that so many people will find this unsettling, but be totally fine with feeding dogs disgusting kibble?
This is a commercially available raw food diet. This is lamb. I'm also going to give the boys an egg. Great source of protein. Is it feeding time?
If you guys want a cheat sheet on the best foods to feed your dog, along with which foods they should never eat, scroll down and click on the link below to sign up for our Evil Food Insiders newsletter. You'll get our dog food cheat sheet instantly, plus future newsletters on breaking news about our food supply to protect your health. Linked below. But what if you don't have time to prepare real meals like this for your dogs? Well, one option we recommend is a brand called Sundays. We've been looking for a better alternative for our dogs, and our dogs have been loving Sundays. So we're really excited to have them sponsoring this video. Sundays takes human-grade ingredients like USDA beef, beef liver, chicken liver, egg yolk, pumpkin, oranges, and much more, with 90% of it being real meat. They air dry it to lock in the flavor. They ship it to your door with free 3-day shipping, and then you just feed it to your dog. No prep required. Sundays is made in the Midwest. There's no synthetic additives. It's basically the same ingredients you would put in a salad, but with 90% meat. You could eat this food yourself if you had to. Sundays won a third-party taste test versus traditional dog food 39-0. So your dog will love it. And you can get 35% off your first order by scrolling down and clicking the link below, or when you use code EVILFoodSupply. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that Sundays does contain sunflower oil, a seed oil, in its beef recipe, which is not ideal. If you don't want sunflower oil, then get their chicken or a turkey recipe. And it also contains mixed tocopherols in all its recipes, which is a natural form of vitamin E that acts as a preservative. So if you have the time and money and you're going for the purest of the pure, make the meals for the dog yourself, or just feed them raw meat. But we realize that not everyone has that luxury, so this is the next best thing. We will also try our best to be transparent about these things with you. So scroll down and click the link below now to get 35% off your first order of Sundays now.